Welcome to the OMZ Property Podcast, your go-to guide for navigating the world of property investing. I'm your host, and in every episode, I sit down with property investors, developers, and top industry experts to share their insights, strategies, and inspiring stories. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just getting started, join us as we explore all aspects of building wealth through property. Welcome to another episode of the OMZ Property Podcast. Today I'm joined with Kelvin Sillah, who is a chartered building surveyor, and we're going to chat about all things property and especially HMOs. Let's jump straight into it. Kelvin, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you so much for having me.
I think you're so far the furthest travelling guest that I've had into the podcast studio, come all the way from Manchester. So thank you for coming down to join us.
No worries, we've been trying to do this for a few times, but I've not been able to do it. So thanks for just patience to get to this point.
No worries at all. Obviously, we've been chatting a little bit on Instagram, and I think you also attended one of my HMO workshops a while back. So we got to know each other there. And I just thought you had a really cool story. So it'd be interesting to get to know you a little bit, for the viewers who are either watching or listening to get to know you. And as always, I'll probably chuck a few questions at you as well, just to see if I can dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
So let's start then. If you could introduce yourself, tell us a bit about who you are and what you do.
Cool. So I'm Kelvin Sillah. I am today like a project manager, but I didn't start off this way. So I'm officially, as you mentioned, a chartered building surveyor. So to go through the journey, went through secondary school, went through sixth form college, actually studied things separately to what I do now. So I did like English language, religious studies and sociology. Left college, went into university. I did a building surveying degree, which is a property specific and related degree. I was blessed in a sense because that degree sets you up for a specific job. Whereas I'm sure if you study English or something else, you can go to different branches. And for those that don't know, a building surveyor is basically, the quickest way I describe it is like a doctor for buildings. So if you have damp in your house or there's cracks in your building, you will call a building surveyor to come in and survey the building, hence the name. Mm-hmm. So I went to university, sounds pretty boring, but there's actually a lot more to it, and studied to do that. I did a 3-year degree with a 1-year sandwich degree, which just basically means after the second year, you have a year in industry working. And once I went into industry, I got the bug and I realized this is the profession I wanted to be in. So then I came back and I finished, I think that was in 2015. I finished uni. Luckily, I had the grades to then go into a graduate scheme, which I then had my first professional role where I work alongside and underneath more senior experienced surveyors, doing a range of different services in a property consultancy. That was for a company called Gerald Eve in London's West End. And then I recorded my experience for about 3 years to then become chartered. And chartered basically just means you sit what's called an assessment of professional competence, aka the APC. And then it's an interview, very scary to be honest. 3 different, what they call assessors, going through my experience to find out, is this guy capable of becoming a chartered surveyor? Luckily I passed it the first time. And then as of the next day, you become MRICS or a member of the RICS. And then after doing that for some time, I went into project management, which I'm sure we'll get into a bit more.
Yeah, perfect. No, thanks so much. So the accent is definitely not a Manchester accent.
Definitely
so
not.
I'm assuming that you've grown up in London?
Yeah, so born and raised in that southeast, Bermondsey boy and Millwall kind of thing.
Oh, so you know this area quite well then, around here where we are?
Literally that. But yeah, I've always been in London all my life, and then only recently last year July moved to Manchester.
Okay, and what was the reason you moved to Manchester?
So we as a family did our first HMO. We had a crazy story. So my mum had a flat in Bermondsey, 3-bedroom flat, which obviously had a separate lounge. I first came across the property strategies and I came across this amazing strategies called HMOs. Realized the different tenant types and saw that there was universities in my area and we had a property that mum could utilize as a potential HMO. So again, just going to different seminars, I learned that the 3 different unis in the area could probably fetch us a good, decent amount of money. So I persuaded my mum, it took me like 1.5 years to do it, to turn our house into a HMO. At the time, mum was like, what are you talking about? No chance. I wouldn't say she was struggling with the mortgage, but like it was like ends meet kind of thing. So I thought if we do this, we could probably get about 2,400 for the rent to come in gross. Her mortgage at the time was £1,000, which then raised a light bulb, would be 1,400 left over. And I was like, she didn't have to use her money, her salary. I didn't have to help so much with the rent. And that 1,400 we can use however.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to introduce a sponsor of the channel. Trinity Finance is a directly authorised FCA regulated mortgage brokerage. Founded in 2015 with over 30 mortgage brokers, we're really well placed to help you with all your property finance needs. Starting with first-time buyers and those moving home, we also help people remortgaging residential and buy-to-let property. Alongside that, we specialise in ground-up development, commercial lending, HMO funding, mezzanine, auction, and also your traditional buy-to-let. If that's of interest, get in contact with us via email at info@trinityfinance.co.uk, or you can give us a ring on 01322 907 000, and we look forward to hearing from you.
So after persuading her, I then went into that process. We did that for 5 years, and we basically rented somewhere else as a family, which was about 1,200. So we still had £200 net. And then what happened is with leasehold flats, the developer, the owner of the property, Southwark Council at the time actually, done some work to the building, which landed all the leaseholders with like massive service charge. They did the roof, they charge everyone a percentage. They did the lift, they charge a percentage. So I basically said, it's no longer financially viable. It's not a good deal because all the interest, they just added to her mortgage. So we decided to sell. And with the money left over, I realized it's not going to scratch the surface to do the same in London. So the next best step was to see where else in the UK would work. Manchester just...
And you thought, let's go as far away from London
as possible. Crazy now I think of it, but still something I'm happy that I did. They say Manchester is like the London of the North. And at the time, I'd never been to Manchester. I think 1 or 2 nights out with the boys. But I went on the mentorship as well. And it was crazy because as I was on the mentorship, it was a 6-month course. And basically each month we focused on a different thing. And I was able to execute what I was learning on the course and then actually go out into the world and do it. So stack a gold mine area.
Is this a property course you were on?
Property course, yeah. Okay. So with an established trainer in the space, hold my hands to him, he really helped. And he's the reason his teachings with my execution is the reasons I am where I am.
Amazing. Do you mind sharing who it is?
So definitely a guy named Stuart Scott. He has the Co-Living Revolution.
Okay.
So I did his 6-month training course. And it was basically a very very, small, kind of close-knit mastermind. So about 10 different developers. And how it works is every 2 weeks you jump on a call. 1 week was more theory, listening to what he's saying, going through presentations, kind of like 10 to 4. And then the next week was like a deal clinic. Mm-hmm. So if we go out and do what he said, we jump on the next call and he goes through the deals and stacking things. So I was able to literally learn something, go up to Manchester, execute it, come back in 2 weeks and say, hey, Stuart, I've got this. What do you think? And just that accountability really helped me get to where I got to. So going back to why I said Manchester, I found 2 deals, and everyone in the group agreed that it was good numbers and it would work. And that's what we finished in end of last year, 2024.
Amazing. So talk us through then what you've been doing in your day-to-day job as a project manager in this field.
Definitely. So I think what's important, or what's funny to say, is that whilst I'm trying to get ahead in the business outside of 9 to 5, I've still got a very demanding job. So now going across into project management, I'm literally the person, if a company approaches my employer, I will be assigned to that client as the project manager. And I'm in essence just holding their hand from the beginning to the end. So I specialize in corporate office fit outs, so like Cat B fit outs. Mm. So say, for example, the likes of like big companies, Workday, Mimecast, BT, these are all clients I worked with. They were probably moving from one key HQ to a new building. So my company will help them find a potential office. Once the agents have done that, they will hand them over to me, and I'm holding their hands basically. So at a time, I can have like 5 different projects. So it's very intensive, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. But that's basically the realms of what I was doing, like consulting. So advising the client, helping them with budgets, appointing the project team, managing project meetings to get the project all the way to the end, dealing with like complaints, chasing builders, and it's all comparative and transferable skills into what I'm doing now.
Well, this is what I was just about to say. So obviously it sounds like quite a full-time job that you've got there. I'd imagine you're spinning quite a few plates doing that. Obviously a commercial fit out completely different to a HMO conversion, but there's a lot of transferable things probably. So how did you find then doing that as your daytime job to doing a HMO conversion in Maidstone? And can you talk us through that particular property that you've converted and talk us through how it went and what you've learned and stuff?
Yeah, good question. It's funny because at the end of the project I did like a massive lesson learned. I went to Thailand, just like had some quiet time. I think if the question is like transferable skills, what I've learned, commercial projects, you still manage a load of consultants, so engineers, acoustic consultants, architects, clients, whatever. The same with HMOs. I've got a broker, I've got architects, I've got interior designer, all these different things. So I'm still used to working with people, understanding different personalities and working to strengths and weaknesses. I find being a project manager, it makes my personal life very stringent. Like I'm thinking like today I'm in East London. Is there anything else I need to do in East London so that whilst I'm here, I'm not wasting time going back to Manchester, coming back? I think just to go back to the question, it literally is taking all my skills that I have from the professional space into HMOs. What I found is HMOs are a different beast, but I am able to manage them a bit more easier because I'm used to doing like construction values of anything from like 600K to like the most I've done is like 30 mil for BT's office, where I was one of 3 PMs. But HMO bills, like my last bill was like 100K. So I'm working with one builder, he's managing all the trades.
Only thing is, this is now your money rather than someone else's money.
Exactly.
So how does that change things for you?
That's funny because when I was working in the corporate world, I was literally working with corporate clients. So it wasn't personal. I did 1 or 2 resi projects and I realized when you're working people's money, it's a whole different beast. People are way more emotional, way more in detail. I think for mine, that was definitely the case. More so because I had to raise finance for the project, and taking people's money is a massive responsibility.
Sure.
So whilst it was my first HMO in a new area, new builder, I had to do so much due diligence before I got into that commitment to make sure I can work with this guy and I'll also be able to give my investors the return.
So I don't know Manchester that well. I mean, a bit bad of me, really. I sort of focus quite a concentrated area of South London and Kent, and that's where I've got all my investment properties and where I've been sort of active. I did come up to Manchester about 2 years ago for a course that I was on, a work-related finance course, and was kind of a bit blown away by it really up there, because my impression of what Manchester was like compared to what I actually saw, I was like, this place is unreal. You know, it's like central London, but like no one here. Like it's just the streets are kind of so much more empty, and there's not that much traffic from what I could see. And there was also some like quite cool venues, and the buildings, a lot of architectural nice buildings and stuff. So it was quite an interesting experience. But obviously completely out of my comfort zone in terms of what properties might be worth there, what rents are like and stuff like that. So for anyone who's watching that's maybe thinking about getting stuck into property investment, and perhaps they've got that same issue that you potentially had, which is buying a property down south, you need a fair amount of deposit, stamp duties, you know, and other frictional costs that you've got, and then you need a refurb money, and you know, if you don't have experience, sometimes the barrier to entry on the south part of the country is higher. So naturally, and because people are chasing yield and things, they may go up north. There's that whole debate, isn't there? Should I do a HMO in the south?
It always continues as
well. But so for those people watching that are thinking, right, what to do? You know, I might say find a great area close to where you are, an hour from where you live, and invest. Your philosophy has been actually forget that, go 4.5, 5 hours away from where you're normally used to and invest in that location. Now, obviously, you've done a lot of due diligence and stuff, but just talk us through, if you can, from start to finish, what you did, how you found that property, what you bought it for, what you spent on it, what's it worth, like how you found doing your first HMO so far away from where you grew up.
Okay, first thing I would say is I had this determination that I wanted to break free from the life I was living. So I always saw myself as this developer that was able to add value, look at an asset and convert it. I didn't like the fact that I didn't have access to the money. That was the only barrier I would say at the time to stop me from getting there. So I was someone that heard people say, invest within an hour and a half of where you are. I was like, I don't have that option. I didn't know how to raise finance. I didn't have anyone around me that had money. So my only option was to go up north with, luckily, the money I had from mum. If someone basically is in my position, I would say in hindsight, look at your personal life before you get into that mix. I say that because managing a project is one thing, but we all have personal lives, as we just mentioned off camera. Are you a parent? What could it do to your relationship? What's it going to do to your energy? Like going back and forth, driving, taking trains, that's a whole nother cost. I probably didn't even account for that in the budget. I just had to make it work. Work with a builder who understands that and is basically going to work with you to say they're going to go to site every week and send you videos on WhatsApp. Because if you don't go to site, how are you going to know what's going on? Do you know what I mean? Your builders might not be there. You don't know. So there's a lot more to it. In terms of how I found the deal, because I was doing the course, I basically done a lot of data research into capital appreciation, growth, like population, jobs, employers, connection links. I'm looking at the end user, and the area I bought the property in, I bought it for 112,500, whereas that was just a 3-bed mid-terrace property anywhere in South London. That would at least be 300k, easy. So I bought it for 112,500. I spent about, the quote to the builder was 93. I spent probably about another 15 to 20 on like kitchen, all the stuff I was outside the package. And then we got a GDV at the end of 300k. Now, the numbers are not crazy, but I was able to pay all my investors back within the 12-month term that I promised them I would. I got pretty much the house occupied, fully rented. And today, I went into the house recently just to fix a few things. People are living in the property. And for me, that was like, I know that was what I was doing it for, but to see someone had made a room that I'd like stressed about in their home, that was like the relieving part for me. I was like, I want to do this more. I want to help people. I want to create spaces. I think the HMO game it's amazing space, but it's challenging, and people don't document that much. So I'm trying to do the honest side of that, which is why I've been interviewing developers and stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's really interesting, actually. For anyone who's not following Kelvin, I would highly recommend you do that, because it's kind of like a real life perspective. It's not like the glamorous, I'm driving around in mental cars and got all these assets. It's actually showing the nitty gritty of what he does day to day. And the YouTube's good as well, mate. So I'll highly recommend go check him out. I'll try and put a link in the description below of your Instagram page and YouTube and stuff. And I'm sure people would get some value, certainly if you're starting off and wanting to do this. So a couple of things then. It sounds like from the numbers you've spoke about there, you're kind of all in for about 225, 230k, something like that. And this asset's then revaluing at 300. So if you're doing 75% loan to value, you're probably getting most of your money or all of it back out. So what is this HMO? Is it a C4 HMO? Is Manchester a non-Article 4? How does that work?
So basically you have Manchester and then you have Greater Manchester, 12 towns outside of it. Obviously it depends on where you are. There's Article 4 different areas. Some towns have pockets of Article 4, some is just the whole town. I am in a town where it has pockets, and obviously I'm outside of that pocket. So it was just.
How did you find that? Are you using, because there's a piece of software called Article 4 Maps? Did you use that?
At the time, that wasn't out when I looked for mine, but I did use another plug, Property Filter.
Property Filter, I've seen them.
And it's funny because I obviously was one of the first ones to use it. I think it came about when I was just starting to find my deal. And Gillum, the guy that owns it, great guy. I basically found it and done a testimonial for them on their YouTube.
Oh, cool.
And it was crazy because it was such an easy to use, and I found the deal within like a week kind of thing. So I'm still using that now, trying to find new stuff.
So
but
for anyone
definitely recommend that.
Check that out, Property Filter. So there's loads, Property Data, Property Filter, Article 4 Maps. But so you found property in a non-Article 4 area, you've converted it, so it's C3 residential house converted into a C4 HMO. Got your HMO license?
Got the license,
How many rooms did you create?
So funny, we actually, an original scheme was to build 6, so go into the loft and do 1. But because I guess there was a planning risk because the council was known for taking very long, and I was just fearful that it would take longer than needed and I had people's money. So I said, it's still stacked as my exit B on a 5-bed. So I just literally said, you know what, get in, get out, no extensions, back to brick, new services, get it back done. So
is that within the existing floor plate of the property without doing any alterations? Well, so you've probably taken chimney stacks out and stuff.
Took chimney stacks out. The house had a garage connected. So we basically converted the garage into a bedroom, which was interesting. So I guess that was an extension, but we didn't build it. We just kind of refurbished the garage.
Yeah.
In line with building regs, had an improved inspector on it. But yeah, I think that was a good start into changing buildings, adapting buildings.
So let me ask you this then. So now that you've done that project, and I'm assuming it's giving you a nice little income off it.
Well, to be honest, property doesn't cash flow that.
I know, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Yeah. Because you need to, you probably need to do quite a few of these to replace your main salary. But it's giving you some money, right? Yeah. And at the moment, it owes you nothing because you've paid everyone back. You've got this asset for life.
Exactly.
With obviously some maintenance and management and things that you're going to have to do, and always a tie to Manchester for a while. But so you've got this property. Now that you've done it, would you do anything differently on the next one? And the only reason I ask that is because loft conversions in non-Article 4 areas, it depends on the house, but most loft conversions fall under something called permitted development. As long as you're within a certain cubic meterage of how much you extend into the loft space, that can be done without the need for planning permission, just using a simple certificate of lawfulness application to a local authority, wait 56 days, you draw it up and you do it. And every area is different, but loft conversions, typically, if you do a loft and you can do it cheap enough and you get another 1 or sometimes 2 bedrooms in the lofts, depend on the size of the property, they can add that extra bedroom, which in my view, a lot of the time, the extra bedroom that you get or 2 are pure profit from a rental perspective, because you don't have any more council tax, gas and electric doesn't go up that much more. There's a build cost element to it, but the rental income is kind of infinite in terms of it being profitable. So now that you've done it, would you go back and do the loft?
100%.
You would, yeah?
I didn't do it out of fear because of the unknowns. I was like...
You've never done a loft conversion before, have you? That's the thing.
It was a new builder, new area. I was raising money. I was like... It was just a bit too tight. And I take calculated risk. So I thought, you know what? Just learn. In the future, if I wanted to, the loft is still there. I can do it. Yeah. But it's a lesson learned. So going forward, I think my sweet spot is to only do 6 or 8 beds. Yeah. Because I feel like for 7, because of the need for acoustic measurements, I don't know if the deal stacks as well. Whereas a 6 under PD and 8 going to get an extra bit of money, I think that is the way I'm going to go. And now take the standard higher, like studio rooms, and offer stuff that is on the market, but not that much, if that makes sense, like high-end rooms that, again, when I came to Manchester, I was probably my ideal tenant type, young professional, looking for a space of his own, not ready to buy a space myself, but wanted somewhere that I can call mine. So then I really put myself in the shoes of the end user. And I was like, I saw what was in the market. I was like, I need to do better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Right, let's talk a little bit about construction and builders, right? Because I'm a bit bold with my views on this, and anyone who's in construction might get a little bit annoyed with some of the things that I say. I don't particularly like the word builder, okay? Because I feel that, and this is not to all builders, there are some fantastic builders out there, but for most, the experiences I hear about builders are negative, and they fall into this category of someone who, not all of them, some of them are amazing, got lots of skill sets, some have even gone and got qualifications and they're a master of their particular trade, and they've got extensive experience and they can class themselves as master builders. But you also get people that have kind of not been doing it that long and feel like, do you know what, I'll give this a go. There's no real barrier to entry to me becoming a builder. And what I'll do is I'll take on your project and then I'll just add a nice 20-30% margin on for me, and I'll just bring loads of other trades in that will do all the work, and I'll just sort of like not do that much really, and collect a nice profit. And oh, by the way, I might do that 3 or 4 times and take some of your money and use it on the other project to get that one going, and they're spinning lots of projects. And because in construction there isn't really this kind of ombudsman service or something you could go to, you hear lots of stories about this person took 50k of my money, ripped the property back to brick, and then just disappeared. And then I found out he shut loads of businesses down, and all these horror stories that you hear. So let's chat a little bit about this, because obviously you've got extensive knowledge in construction and project managing. How did you get on? How did you source the builder? How did you get on with the builder who did your project? An honest reflection of it. And would you do anything differently?
Oh, great question. Again, all these individual questions, we can talk for hours on them, but how did I find a builder? So again, going into a new area, you have to leverage, I think, your network and recommendations. So I literally, naturally, my first thing, social media. Any builder that was Manchester, I logged them in a spreadsheet. I then asked different people in Facebook groups, agents. I went to networking events in these areas, and I basically created what you call a tender list. And slowly I started to sift through, checking their projects. I can't work with you if I've not been to your projects. A good builder is kind of excited to show you what they've done and has a load of examples, good clients that they're just readily available to share with you. If you're thinking of working with a new builder and they're not willing to show you projects, and they don't even have projects in their phone or clients that they're happy to give you numbers, potential red flag. My builder was recommended by an agent I was looking to work with. He's quite ahead in the property space, and he recommended I use him because he covered that area. And what I did is, he was one of a few. So I went to 10 to about 4, but this guy, he works with his wife, and as a team, I seen their product. I went to see about 5 in a day of their previous projects. I reached out to one of his clients on social media without the builder knowing. The client basically said, he recommends I go ahead with them. I then done a bit of research into Facebook groups, done a search of the builder's name. Funny enough, I did come across some controversial stuff about him. I reached out to these individuals. I found out what had happened. I asked my builder about it, kind of passively. He explained. And one thing I would say is that there's always 2 sides to a story. Mm-hmm. So me being a project manager, I know what builders like and what builders don't like. They want to get paid on time, and they don't like people micromanaging them because they're the professional. They don't want you to tell them to move a plasterboard wall by literally less than half a meter because it helps. They work with you. So why I'm saying that is, my builder, he is skilled in what he does. I'm skilled in making sure my money, the budget is managed. And we just work together. We had a series of meetings. I found how we communicated works really well. His wife, she done the finer details. So whilst on site, she calls me about where the sockets are and all that kind of stuff. And they were a good team. I've seen their products. I've seen the end finish. And I felt like he's someone I could take a punt with. And I just went forward.
Amazing. So it sounds like you found a really good little build team business that they've got up there.
100%, yeah. And they just do HMOs. They don't do anything else.
That's amazing. So they know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing.
They're willing to...
He got loads of links and local approved inspectors, builders. He had a link for everything because he does them day in, day out. He's got 8 projects on at a time. And my project took 12 months to go through conveyancing. So throughout the whole process, I was updating him. He was like, Kelvin, don't worry, I'm keeping a space for you. So that 12 months even allowed me to establish an even more enhanced relationship because this guy wanted to work with me, kind of thing. So yeah. So
again, look, just jumping into this a little bit more, and I'm just trying to maybe get you slightly out of your comfort zone, because I can see obviously prior to this, you've not done the loft conversion. That's perhaps a little bit of a fear thing at the time. And maybe it made sense not to do it, but there's an argument for that. But so not done the loft conversion, use the main contractor, hand over this project completely. Yep. Now that builder very obviously skilled at what he does and perhaps could do things cheaper than you could potentially do things yourself. And it's whether you're geographically located there to be able to project manage something. But given your skill set of doing much larger project management, would you consider on a new project now being the main contractor that brings in a ground worker to dig your foundations and do your extension, a bricklayer, a carpenter, an electrician, a loft conversion specialist company that just knocks up the shell of the loft for you, an electrician, a boiler engineer? Would you consider, because not always, but a builder may have a 20, 25, sometimes even uplift, 30% margin on what, so if your build cost is 100k, the builder might have had a 20 to 30 grand profit in it. And perhaps if you'd stepped in that place, you might not be interested. You might think, I just want to do this at scale, and I'm willing to hand it off. But have you considered whether on future projects you could act as the main contractor, or is that not really a consideration for you?
The thing is, it's a great question again, because I think it's definitely the space I'm going to move into. Reason I say that is it's going to be a new field for me, because remember, as a professional commercial consultant, I literally work with a client, I hire a main contractor, and they have all their subcontractors. Mm-hmm. So I've never had to source free quotes for plasterers. I know when I'm putting tenders out, the builders are doing that and they're showing me the quotes. But because I'm in a whole new area, it's now about building relationships and networking to understand, okay, who are the good plasterers? Who are the good electricians? Who's reliable? Build up this arsenal team. And eventually I could just say, okay, within week 1, 2, I'm hiring these trades and phase it out. But it's definitely something I would do, because I feel like it's a skill that's not really there. And I get approached for people looking for consultancy stuff. Again, I've not done it because I've not had the time, but I'm now, as of now, going into that space. So yeah, definitely, I think I would like to go into that.
Yeah, I find... I grew up on construction sites. I think every house we ever lived in as a kid, my dad was doing something to it. And I was probably his labourer for most of the time.
Great exposure.
Yeah, so sort of like thinking back to one of our properties that we did, we had it was just an old barn, and my dad converted it into a very nice 3-bedroom house and put dormers in the loft. And I was essentially his labourer the whole time, along with my brother. And I learned a lot on the construction site working with dad for many years. But I find that tradespeople and builders just have like their own language that they talk. It's not like how we would be talking now. And one of the things I've sort of found that's, I suppose, maybe an advantage or would help a property developer is perhaps to be able to try to learn to speak that language a little bit. This is going to sound a bit strange to anyone who's listening.
Completely on with you,
But
I should have said this before, actually,
electricians talk different to plumbers, and bricklayers talk different. And I was having a chat with my ground worker last week, who's just doing a small extension for me. And if you were an outsider and you listened to the phone call, it was like, I've poured the footings, the building inspectors signed it off, and I need that build over agreement for this sewer pipe, and next week I'm going to knock up the parapet wall, and then I'm going to put some coping stones. And you sort of think, this is just what is this? It's another language. But one of the things I've found is when you're trying to do property development, if you can, and I suppose this goes back to kind of all forms of business and life as well. If you can become someone who is relatable to that individual, if when they're talking to you, you kind of don't understand anything, it's kind of you and them. Whereas if you can become someone who's like on their level and you understand and can kind of understand what they're even doing day to day and the intricacies of it, it becomes almost easier to build the relationship with them. And I find that over time gets you better rates, better deals, better prices on things that you're doing, rather than it just be, that's Kelvin, the property developer, he sort of just comes here once a week and just moans about a few things, and but we're actually the ones digging and doing the hard work and putting the fencing up and stuff. It's kind of like the distance between the two of you. So have you thought about that, and are you building your skill set in terms of that side?
It's funny, because I would say everyone has what they call unfair advantages, and I feel like one of my unfair advantages is my ability to speak to people. And I would, without tooting my own horn, say that I'm very good at like building relationships. So I think it all started from one of my first jobs in Waitrose, where I worked in Marylebone on a meat and fish counter, funny enough. And I literally just had to speak to people who were clearly in a different price bracket, wealth bracket. But Waitrose teaches you great customer service. And it basically teaches you, if a customer asks you to basically, where is this Tyrell's packet of crisp, you don't just do what they do in Sainsbury's and Tesco and just point them lane 17.
Other supermarkets are available.
Exactly. You don't do that. You take them to the product, you hand it to them, and you say, is there anything else I can help you with? And that simple interaction.
It's a nice touch, isn't it?
It's a great touch. So when I'm speaking to people, be it investors, be it developers, be it architects, I'm speaking to them, I'm trying to understand what gives them the passion, and builders are no different. What do they like? What don't they like? What do they like outside of work? And trying to relate on that level, because business is business. But I know if I go to London, I'm that London developer from now in Manchester trying to buy cheap properties. I don't want to be that guy. I'm just trying to like better the life for myself and family. But it's all about like building relationships and just working with people together, because builders are trying to earn an honest living just like us, and everyone just needs to work together. It's teamwork. Again, it goes back to work.
I think that is amazing advice that you're saying there, and I think that there's going above and beyond in anything really. What if you put your heart into something, you'll always get things come
100%,
back for you. But like just thinking, the relationship that you should have with these people should be a friendship as well as just a work relationship. If you turn up and you're one of these builders who pulls up in a car outside and they've got their own Costa coffee, and you just appear to be this selfish person, don't you? Whereas if you come along, give some coffees, bring things along to the people, a packet of biscuits. I often find myself on sites and I won't be in suitable attire, but I'll help. I'll do when I'm standing around doing nothing. I don't.
They value that as well.
I do
value
things.
that. Yeah,
it's probably because my dad's there, and I feel terrible that he's maybe digging a hole or doing something, and I'm not. Yeah. But I'll quite often try and step in and do things, and they'll sort of think, thanks, mate.
He's not just another developer.
Yeah, exactly, and that does go quite a long way. I know there's going to be people listening and watching this that are thinking, why are you doing that? You don't need to be doing that. But it's each to their own what they feel is suitable, and the relationships have been maintained a long time doing that. So let's jump forward then. So you've done this HMO.
Yep.
It's good. What's next for you? Are you continuing in this job doing project management, or what are you going to do going forward?
What's next? So at the minute, I'm looking at building the portfolio, so doing more HMOs. I've got the bug now. I've paid people back. I'm documenting a bit more. So now I'm just trying to do more HMOs. Like I said, 6 or 8 beds, working usually with private investors, just trying to get the right amount of people together. Outside of that, I'm documenting a lot more, like the YouTube stuff. I've been interviewing some developers. I've learned with HMOs, everyone does it differently. And I love to just hear people's stories and document people's stories. I'm not working with people that's like the most known, but everyone has a story. And I've got a few videos on my YouTube channel that people are sending me random videos. This person taught me one thing, and every video is trying to get 1% better. I'm moving away from consultancy as a professional, like working for an employer, and now going into the space of hopefully building something for myself. So again, we're speaking off camera, just trying to do more of that myself, help people who probably want to help with project management or just overseeing builders or whatever it is. In those kind of spaces, definitely open to those conversations, and more pivoting away from being a professional consultant to the more personable, someone that probably is time rich, cash rich, time poor, and has a good job, but they just want someone to manage the projects or work with a builder. Some people don't know how to work with builders, so it's better to put someone who likes doing it. So I think, that's my 2025, to be honest, mate.
Amazing. So you'll focus on Manchester again still? So you're going to stay up there now that you're living up there?
It's funny. So I don't know. Focus on Manchester. I think I'm trying to get to the point where I'm building up a net cash flow that supports my lifestyle. I'm doing this because whilst I don't have no children in a minute, when I'm blessed to be in that position, I want to be a hands-on dad. So I'm working hard now before any kids arrive to be able to say, okay, I can be self-employed, do what I need to do. I do eventually want to come down to back down to South. Again, I know South better than I know in Manchester, but it's just what I've got access to funds-wise. So if I meet someone that says, Kelvin, let's JV and let's do stuff in South, by all means, I'll be in the South. Yeah. And I've got the ability to be mobile. It's 2 hours on a train. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've built up some good connections in that particular pocket that you're in Manchester. So, I mean, would be ideal to find another one very close to it in terms of just being able to rinse and repeat, but perhaps on the next one, maybe do a little bit more now that you feel, a bit more comfortable with doing C3 to C4. You could go 6-bed all en suite, or maybe try and jump into your first sui generis, full planning application and delve into the world of building control stuff that does get a little bit complicated.
I want to do a lot of bigger projects. So like I've got the appetite for like commercial to resi stuff. There's a few guys in the industry doing amazing things, and I take inspiration from everyone. So I definitely see myself, I've got the appetite for bigger projects. I'm just starting off with HMOs, although HMOs to some people are big. I want to do like developments and like kind of stuff you're doing. So I'm just starting off before like crawling before I'm running, if that makes sense. Yeah,
totally. I think there's something that's very, for yourself, I think just doing what you're doing in this stage is amazing. I think sometimes we often as property developers, we have this shiny penny syndrome of like,
I've got it. Don't worry.
Yeah, like, you see all these people on the Property Investor Awards that have done, I don't know, commercial to resi conversion for 30 flats. And I've been to people's schemes and had a look around and stuff. And so you look at them and you think, oh, it'd be great to do something like this. But what you don't often see is everything that goes on in the background. I mean, I was with a developer yesterday who is an amazing chap. I'm going to get him on the podcast at some point shortly. He runs a firm that's building about 250 houses a year.
Wow.
Big firm, and he'd been doing it a long time. But he started off similar to me, you know, doing...
It's funny, when I hear that, I just hear stress.
Yeah, well, this was one of the conversations
skills,
actually that I had with him, was around, it's all good saying this and you'd think, you know, everything must be easy, but running a business like that, you know, is very, very challenging, and it's not for the faint-hearted. And so obviously moving up in stages like flip, buy to let, small HMO, large HMO, maybe a new build, couple of new builds, big commercial to resi scheme. These are all great things to potentially look to do, but it's also coming back to numbers.
Yeah, and building to it.
Yeah. If it works to keep doing it and getting your money out and building this cash flow where eventually you can say, well, I've got enough income that I don't actually have to have a day job, then fantastic. Your goal is achieved, isn't it?
Literally,
rather than actually I'm in a ground up development scheme, which is 2 years, and I'm in every overdraft and loan and credit card I could possibly think about to come out with a nice profit at the end. But there's also, you know, a huge risk in those projects. So it's taking, I think what you've done is brilliant, because you've gone into a small mentoring group. You've got some technical advice from there, and it's enabling you to gradually take more risk.
I'm in a space of like this year adding value and leveraging people's experience. And I feel like even interviewing people is like a 2-3 hour mentorship from that person, regardless of whatever level they are. They're usually above, ahead of me. And I get time on camera, off camera, hear about their stresses, having meetings and coffees, and I'm building a relationship with these people. Like, they're sharing it with their network, people from their network are reaching out. So it's a compound effect, but it's all for people like who was like me 2 years ago trying to get into the space. And you're doing the same thing with your channel. Like, I watched some of your stuff thinking, like, when I started, I was like, this is sick. I want to be doing this stuff. So it's all motivation. That's all it is. Anyone can do it if you actually want to do it and you just persevere to say, I'm going to be this developer, I'm going to be this person. That's what it is.
It's risk as well. Like, your risk appetite changes. The more you do something, the more confident you get, the more you're willing to look at risk. I think back to my first ever project, and I did something my first ever HMO project. I did something quite similar to you. I did a rear extension on a property, converted it into like a mini HMO. And then about a year later, I said, that was stupid. Why didn't I put the loft conversion on? And I went back and put the loft conversion on after, and it would just cost me more money doing it that way.
So did you kick the tenants out, or how did you do that?
No, they actually stayed, and I put scaffolding. I took the roof off and did it whilst they were in, which is incredible. We actually managed to pull that off, but we did. Crazy, a couple of things for you then. So last year you attended the HMO workshop, didn't you? And we're actually about to put a new one on in June this year. Saturday, 14th of June would be. I haven't launched this yet, but we'll be doing another HMO workshop. I actually put these workshops on as like non-profit making exercises, just because for me, one of my passions is poor quality education, not being value for money. And I sort of thought, well, I can quite easily deliver some single day webinars, workshops where people will get together. It won't cost a lot of money, but they'll feel inspired and get really good value for it, which is kind of what I've been going to myself in various different fields. So last year you came to one. Could you give me, like, just again for the people that perhaps might found that value, could you, without bending your arm and saying the workshop was amazing, but could you just give me an overview of like what happened on the day and how you felt it was, if possible?
Yeah, it's funny because first off, it was a great event. Why did I enjoy it? One, I was in a room that was focused solely on HMOs. Going back to what you said about shiny penny syndrome, I get opportunities thrown at me. There's this SA deal, there's this buy-to-let flip. I'm like, no, Kelvin, you paid X amount for your course. Focus on HMOs. I'm not even focusing on social housing. I'm focusing on either student or professional tenants. So I came into an event that was solely focused on that. You're someone in this space I look to and see, okay, he's doing really well, does HMOs top end. Mitch Nunn was in the room. There's loads of other different people. I was like, these are the rooms I need to be in. On the table I was at, so for those that wasn't there, it was like a room, loads of round tables, networking in the beginning, and then interval talks, different people, planning, HMO developers, etc. It was great networking. So what people don't understand is these events, yes, you're paying to hear from you on the finance side, all these developers, whatever, but it's also about who else is in the room. You might meet your business partner, you might meet your investor. It's not just about people on the panel. Everyone else in the room is also there to learn. So I'm making great use of people on the table. I still speak to one guy from that day that I met on that table.
Amazing.
So it was an event that I took so much away from. And whenever I go to these events, I leave just like, damn, I need to do more.
I know, they are inspiring, aren't they?
I leave to be inspired, and like, if he can do it, if she can do it, what am I doing? Like, I can do it. Like,
it makes you think bigger, actually, is what I would say.
Yeah,
one of the talks was all about that, wasn't it? But so, I'm glad you enjoyed. And it's low cost entry in my view. You know, people pay tens of thousands for mentoring. This is like 200 quid and you get a bit of breakfast and a bit of lunch and a sort of almost, when you work out what it actually costs us per person, it's
crazy.
We just about break even really. But that's the reason we put it on. I mean, I speak to a number of people that came to the workshop, some that I'm helping with stuff, some that are my clients. One chap who's doing a deal with me. It's been great. So on the 14th of June, we'll release it shortly. But I'd love to have you there again.
I'll definitely come back. It's funny, a few people off the back of me posting, I was like, I wish I knew about this. So the second the link drops, let me know. I'll share it.
Thank you. That's very kind.
Definitely.
We've got like 8 or 9 speakers this time. Nice. So there's more speakers, but the talks are a little bit more condensed and there's a bit more time for networking. Because one of the feedbacks was we had like 7 or 8 talks and they were all like nearly an hour. And it was like back-to-back talks, not huge amount of time to network. I know you could network on the table, but this time we're doing like probably 8 or 9, 30 to 45 minute talks, and then a few more networking breaks in between.
One thing I want to say to you, and not specific to your event, is anyone that does networking events, not everyone likes networking.
Yes.
So if you could find a creative way to force people to network. For example, I went to an event one time and everyone had a quiz sheet. And you need to go around a room and find someone that answers these things. It forces you to speak to someone.
Yeah, that's really good.
If not, people speak to you.
Yeah.
And you know why people are speaking to you, because they're just trying to get answers. Yeah. So little stuff like that makes people speak, or you literally present at the end. I spoke to Tim, he does this. Do you know what I mean? Just something that forces a bit more gently, obviously.
Definitely. It creates a bit of interaction, doesn't it? We'll try and keep that. Thanks for the feedback. Appreciate it a lot. Look, it's been absolutely amazing getting to know you. Hopefully that I'm sure like the story really for me that stood out, like convincing your mum to turn the family home into a HMO.
To convince, to be honest.
You've got what it takes to go really far in this, and like hats off to you for what you've done already. I hope that you continue to push and become successful in all aspects of what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
It's really, really good. And certainly for people watching that are like, this is out of reach. It's not. Look what this chap's done. He's gone and taken something that was not achievable to him and made something out of it. And, hopefully we'll look back in 5 years' time and say, look where he's at now. So just continue doing what you're doing.
Appreciate you.
Would love to get you back on maybe in a year or so and catch up with you and see how things are going. And you're very welcome to come and look around some of the projects we're doing and stuff.
Yeah, definitely want to do that as well. And just back to you, like, thanks for even inviting me on. Like, it's so many people doing different things. I love all you're doing, the events you're putting together. So just thanks for the opportunity as well.
Appreciate it. I like to round up normally with a recommendation of some sort. I know we've touched on a few recommendations, but this could be like a book that you've read, a website that you use, or something that you think is valuable that you might be able to recommend to any of the viewers or listeners. Have you got anything you could think of?
I've got one actually that just came to mind. Very random.
Yeah.
It's a book called Go for No.
Okay.
So if you're not a reader, don't worry. It's very short, but the essence of the book is go for no. So high level, I'd probably say you could read it in 2-3 days. It's a philosophy where when you're looking for something, you collect no's and you get used to getting no's that eventually you just get a yes. And it's like, oh, wow, I got a yes. But if you reframe your mind from I'm looking for this, like say for example, raising finance, you're going asking people, expecting them to say no. So when one person says yes, it's like, wow, this is a change in the shift. And that book just helped me change my mindset when going out for new things. So Go for No. I forgot who the author is, but type into Google, come up.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Guys, you've been hope you've enjoyed if you're listening. And this is Kelvin Sillah. All the details will be below. Go check him out. He's going to go on to do real big things, I'm sure. Thank you so much, and we'll see you at the next episode.
Cheers, guys.